everyone, so today's look is very dramatic, and I get that this is not something that will please everyone, but I just wanted to sit here and have fun and just let my creative juices flow. And this is what I came up with, a very sort of dark, sultry, smoky eye. I wanted to use some greens, so that's what I did today. And I know that the liner is a little bit more dramatic and very exaggerated, but I wanted to do a very intense sort of feline look with the eye, and so I just kind of ran with the idea. You don't have to do that. You can do a little cat eye like I did. You can just do your liner like normal, tone this down to your preference, but I wanted to use some greens, so I decided to bust out some colors from the LORAC Mega Pro 2 palette, and I'm using this kind of dark foresty green from the palette and then a couple other brown shades. I just love it. I feel like because of this palette and the quality and consistency of the LORAC shadows, I feel like it was easy for me to do this look and for me to blend, because a lot of blending went into this. And I decided to bust out this Makeup Forever palette that I have here. And this is the Artist Shadows No. 2 palette, and we're using this shimmery deep greenish teal color. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's perfection in every way. And then I did my skin very dewy, very sort of glowy, pretty much almost all over. I don't know, I just wanted to do it. I didn't really film it, so I'm going to share with you guys in the description box everything that I have on the face. And then I decided to pair this sort of dark feline green smoky eye with a pumpkin-y, orangey type of lip. I think the color combo is perfect, and I know that tomorrow is Halloween, so if you didn't have a costume or maybe you're going somewhere last minute, maybe you can do something like this because it's not super out there. It's a little bit more on the, toned down compared to Halloween looks, but maybe this will inspire you to just sit down at your makeup vanity or just wherever you do your makeup and just start doing something, and you'll see you'll create something that you probably really enjoy. So I hope that you guys liked it. I had a good time filming this for you. This was very fun to do, and I might do some more looks like this in the future, so let me know what you guys think, and everything is listed down below. So if you want to see how to do this look, then let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take the color Porcelain and Custard. One is like an ivory, one is more of like a yellow buttercream color. They're both matte. And I'm going to be applying this all over the lid, all the way up to the brow bone. And I'm using a Sigma E25. And I've been doing this step a lot lately, and I feel like it helps with blending. Although the shadows in this LORAC Mega Pro 2 palette are so easy, and they're just easy to blend. They're wonderful. So I do recommend this palette. Next, I'm going to take the shade Tawny, which is a warm tan shade, again, still matte, and I'm going to be applying that to my crease, and I'm going to be using an E25. I have two of them. This one is just a little bit more fluffy because I use it pretty much every single day, so it's a little bit more fluffy, and it has opened up a little bit the bristles, so that's why it looks slightly different than what I was just using. But I'm applying this pretty heavily, I would say, because this look is intense, and I wanted the crease to be just as intense as the lid. So I'm just going to be applying that. It doesn't have to be too careful at the moment because there will be a lot of blending throughout this process, so we can fix any mistakes. So just use any sort of like tan shade or, just whatever crease color you want depending on what you're putting on your lid. For the next step, I'm taking the NYX Jumbo Shadow Pencil in Rocky Mountain Green, and it's a shimmery jewel tone green color, and I'm going to use this as my base. So I'm just going to kind of scribble it onto the lid, and these do crease as all get out, so make sure that you only use a little bit and blend it out. And I'm using the Mikasa Beauty E220 brush to blend this out, and I want to cover my entire lid. Now what I'm doing is basically pulling the color so that it meets up to my crease, but I'm not going into the crease or above the crease because, again, we will have some creasing going on with these because they're so creamy. And I like to use the brush and then kind of go back and forth between that and my finger just to kind of blend everything and get it nice and smooth. Next, I'm going to take this eyeshadow. This is from Makeup Forever. This is the ME302, so it's a metallic finish, and it is a beautiful, intense, sort of foresty, kind of emerald green, bit of teal going on in there. It's such a gorgeous color, and it is so creamy. And then when you put it over that base, it just pops. And honestly, you don't have to do the base if you don't have, that cream pencil from NYX, you can skip it. You don't really need to do that with these Makeup Forever eyeshadows because they're intense, but I just wanted to do something a little extra, and it's just a little something more that I wanted to do, not necessary. So I'm taking that with a Sonia Kashuk shadow brush. I forget the number of this brush, but I'm going to be packing that on very densely over the base, so basically covering the cream base that I used, and then taking the tip of the brush and kind of making sure that there aren't any harsh lines between where the shadow ends and then where it meets up into the crease. So there will, again, more blending, but just sort of keep this color onto the lid. Next, I'm going to take a pointed crease brush. This is from Coastal Scents. It came in a set of brushes that I got, I think, 2 years ago, a little over 2 years. And so what I'm doing with this is, because it's pointed, it's the perfect shape to start softening the edges of that teal green color. You want to make sure that you do this and as you're working and applying more layers of product. Just kind of blend. It does look a little harsh, especially because it's just onto the lid, so blend that out before moving on. Next, I'm going to take this matte forest color. This is from the LORAC Mega Pro 2 palette, and it's a deep foresty green. It is matte, so I'm going to use that to also diffuse those edges, and I'm using a pointed crease brush by Zoeva, and I'm not really sure what the number of that one is. I will try to remember to list it down below, but just any sort of like tapered kind of pointy crease brush will definitely help. It's like an oversized pencil brush, and so basically just want to gently kind of go back and forth and soften out those edges and blend everything out, and just again layering a little at a time. Next, I'm going to go in with my E25 brush from Sigma, and I'm going to soften out those edges again. This is the same brush that I used to apply the tawny shades, so I'm just going to use whatever's left on the brush to kind of, again, blend. So blend, blend, blend until your hand feels like it's about to fall off. Then you know you've done your job. So the next step is to take the tawny shade, which is that warm tan, and burlap, which is another warm tan, but it's kind of like a bit of a yellow vibe to that burlap, and I'm going to start intensifying the crease. And this is where you can sort of adjust it to your preference. You can add more, you can add less. You can just sort of take this either way, but I'm going to be using that brush, the E25, to really sort of work this into the crease. And I'm going to come up with just a little bit higher in my crease than I have been lately. I've been kind of keeping everything pretty low on the crease, but for this one I wanted it to be a little high so that I can smoke out the edges and blend it out so that it looks very sort of like intense on the lid, and then gradually fade up to nothingness towards the brow bone, if that makes any sense. And then I'm going back in here with a clean E25 brush to soften everything, as I said so many times. But yes, it's a lot of blending. What I'm trying to do here is sort of soften the edges again. So I'm going in with the same brush that I used to apply the forest shade, but I don't have anything on it. I haven't picked up any extra product, and I'm just going to kind of continue to work and soften out the edges and just sort of touch up the lid if I need to. And I felt like I had to at this point because of all the blending that I've done. So you may or may not need to do this step. Moving on to the lower lash line, I'm taking tawny and burlap on a pencil brush. This is the Mikasa Beauty E310, and I'm applying that to the lower lash line, and it's going to be pretty thick just because that's what I like. And of course this look is super dramatic, so it doesn't seem a little odd to be doing that a little bit thicker down in the lower lash line. So this is totally optional. You can go a little bit thick or you can go thinner, whatever you want. Then I'm going to go in with the forest shade, and again sort of layering these colors together so that the upper lid matches the lower lash line as well. So just adding a little bit more of that. And this pencil brush is really nice. It's a good size. It's very much like the MAC 219. And as you can see, I'm sort of like blending it and then kind of swinging up towards the outer V and then swinging back down just to make sure that it's like following the natural shape of my eye. I'm not trying to do any sort of like crazy dramatic shapes with my eyeshadow. And then I'm going back in with the Makeup Forever ME302. And that is going to go right over the forest shade, and I'm using a detail brush by Coastal Scents, another one that came in that set that I mentioned earlier. I forget what it's called. I think they make it still, but it's a great set. So anyways, just any sort of detail brush, something tiny that you've got in your collection would work just fine for this step. And I'm just sort of applying that pretty heavily. I wanted it to be super strong on the lower lash line. And then some more blending. I wiped down that brush, that pencil brush, a little bit so that there's nothing on there, just so that I can blend. And then I'm going to go in with a makeup remover wipe to sort of clean up any fallout. I did have just a little bit of fallout. Then I'm going to tightline. This is very important, especially because I want the look to be really dark around the lash line. So I'm going to tightline with this pencil from L'Oreal. And it's a very creamy, rich black pencil. So I'm going to tightline the upper and also the lower lash line with this as well. I'm going to take the CoverGirl Intensify Me liquid liner, and I'm going to apply a pretty thick line. I'm going to do a very intense sort of cat eye with this, and I'm going to extend it to a nice point on the inner corner. So just if you're going to do this look like I did, or as far as the liner is concerned, you want to do it pretty thick wing, and then, you know, pretty thick on the inner corner as well. And as you can see here by my tear duct, I'm actually extending that as if I was trying to connect it towards, like, imagine your tear duct going down at a diagonal towards the tip of your nose. You want to kind of follow that. And I used a little brush, and I took some of the product off of the liquid liner pen to make it a little bit easier, just to give me that really exaggerated point. That's very important to do, especially when you're trying to achieve that feline look with the eye, with your liner. So you can use a liquid liner pen if you've got one, or you can just use a little detail brush like I am right now, just to kind of exaggerate that point. I thought it was really cool, and it looks really, really nice. Now I'm taking the shade Prosecco, and this is a very sparkly, sort of metallic, shimmery champagne color on a detail brush, and I'm going to apply that to the inner part of my lower lash line, kind of like inner corner highlight, but I'm not trying to get too close to the that point of the liner because I didn't want to mess it up. So for some mascara, I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara for the upper lashes, and then the CoverGirl Supersizer for the bottom, and then the Red Cherry WSP lashes. And this is the completed eye look. I think the lashes just add an extra bit of drama to the look. They're kind of like the wispies, but they're a little bit longer, just at the points of them. And I don't know, it's just, they're a little bit different than the demi wispies that I normally use. So I love this look. This is everything. I really like the way this came out. I hope that you guys enjoyed this look. This is the look, the eyes with the face. The skin is extra dewy. For my foundation, I use the Dinair Airbrush machine to apply my foundation, which I do have a video coming up very soon. The lip gloss is one by StarLooks in the shade Ideal. It's like a nice pumpkin-y shade. Love the color. And that comes in like a little monthly subscription box that I will be talking about pretty soon. And for my highlight, it's either the Makeup Revolution Radiance palette or the Balm Mary Lou. Because for my blush, I actually use TheBalm's Cabana Boy mixed with their Instain blush in Argyle to give me that kind of like that rosy, plummy cheek. So that is the completed look. I will have everything listed down below. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for being here with me today, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.